Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate that. So, Bev, we're happy to have you with us this morning. You've had a couple of months to under your belt to get immersed in the business. I know how it is to be the new kid on the block. So, we're grateful to have this opportunity to hear from you. So, with that, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Cotton and Coffee this morning. It is an honor to have you. But to start off, will you tell us a little about yourself and your background in marketing and brand leadership? And what experiences have really shaped your career?
Wonderful. Well, firstly, Laura, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute privilege to be here. I'm extremely excited. This is month three for me. So it's really been a wonderful experience to meet so many people and learn so much about the company and the industry. As far as my background, I have been in the apparel and textile industry for the bulk of my career. I started my career at VF Corporation in strategy, which really exposed me to all facets of the industry. Subsequently, I worked at a lot of larger retail brand corporations, including but not limited to Delta Glill, Maidenform, and Renfro. In those capacities, I ran marketing both on the B2B side and the B2C side, and worked with a lot of different brands and retailers. Whether on the licensing side, I've held licenses for Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger, Lucky Brand, and several others. And then also on the retailer side. So that is both domestically and internationally. So I've worked with all the big guys, Walmart, Target, JCPenney, Kohl's, Macy's, as well as a lot of the smaller retailers, and then a lot of the international retailers as well. So I have a very good understanding of the landscape. I also have had the opportunity to work on several smaller brands. Examples include Happy Socks and Hanky Panky. What is great about that is it really exposed me to more than just marketing. So I have had a lot of experience across business development, product development, and other facets of the different organizations. Um, Prior to this role, I actually was in the textile space. I was at Unify, which I know is polyester, but I have seen the light. I am now on the cotton side of the business. In that capacity, I held a very similar role in that I was running marketing communications for Unify, really with a focus on Reprieve, which is their brand of recycled polyester. All of these experiences have definitely shaped me in different ways. From the obvious, in that, you learn new things in new roles, but also I think the thing that comes across is really the importance of people, working with great people that are passionate about what they do, that are motivated, that are smart, and then the importance of having a great product. I think without a great product, you can have all the marketing in the world, but it won't move the needle. And we obviously have an incredible product here with cotton.
Perfect. So clearly you've led marketing efforts across apparel, textiles, consumer brands. So I'm curious, why cotton? You said, you've seen the light and here you are. We love to hear that. So why cotton? What drew you to this new CMO role at Cotton Incorporated?
Great. So I think, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of every role is about the people. I think, going through the interview process at Cotton Incorporated, what stood out to me really was how passionate everybody was about what they do and really how dynamic they were. I met some really compelling people. What is appealing about the role is it really brings together a lot of the things that I've done in the past, in that it is both the B2B side and the B2B side. B2C side, and it really brings the two together. I'm a really big believer in working across supply chains and really building partnerships. And that really starts from everything from the consumer all the way through. So it's how do you take all those different experiences and make 1 + 1 = 10? And I really saw that opportunity with this role at Cotton.
Thank you. So, follow up for that one.
Yeah,
So, leaning into your prior
yeah.
industry knowledge across all those brands, and even textiles and fabrics that you mentioned, particularly in synthetics, like how do you envision your experience positively impacting the cotton industry?
Great. And one thing actually I meant to mention earlier, I think another big piece of what drew me to cotton is the incredible authentic sustainability story. I think, you can do a lot of things with synthetics, you can say a lot of things, but at the end of the day, no other fiber has the natural authenticity that cotton does. And, again, that's a really compelling story. The other thing is also the incredible depth of resources that Cotton Incorporated does have, from the research to the trends, trend forecasting, our Fabricast, all of those different pieces. As far as, what my prior experience with synthetics brings to the table, I sat in the seats, whether that's on the brand side, the retailer side, or the competitive side. I know how cotton, how they combat cotton, how they pitch their products, and really, I think having that knowledge really helps me shape the narrative for cotton. Everything is always part of a bigger collective. I am very fortunate here in that I have an incredible team. But I think at the end of the day, what is super, super compelling to me is the fact that cotton is natural and also that it's evolved. When I think of cotton from, and again, dating myself in the 90s, it didn't have wickability. It didn't have some of the great properties that you now have with all of our tremendous technology. So, I think a lot of my experience launching technologies on the synthetic side translates also to the cotton side of the world.
Got it. Thank you. So this role was created as part of the program strategic shift towards strengthening cotton's position in the value chain. So from your perspective, what does modern marketing for natural fiber like cotton look like today?
Absolutely. So I think the marketing landscape honestly changes every 6 months at this in today's day and age. Everything is constantly evolving. Unfortunately, we live in a very fragmented world, which means that we have increasingly fragmented audiences. That means that we really, really need to narrow down and look at, who makes the decisions and direct our attention there. In this world, that means really focusing on our brand and retailers. That said, it's very broad. It's not just a case of the raw materials director or the sourcing person. While those people are critical, there are also other functions within corporations from the design, the sustainability teams, the marketing teams that we really need to reach and influence. So, again, a lot of that is done through our incredible account team, both in the US, in Asia, and obviously in Latin America, and through our trade marketing efforts. So I think that's, a big piece of it. As I mentioned earlier, our incredible technologies, our insights, our trend forecasting, all of those are vital. That said, consumer sentiment is another really key piece of this. And that's what drives what marketing teams focus on. And having sat in that seat, a lot of times marketing teams look at, what's resonating with consumers. Okay, consumers are indicating that they're interested in natural fibers or they're interested in sustainability. And so our role is to make sure that that consumer brand awareness is there, particularly among that 18 through 30 to 34-year-old female, because they are the ones who drive the market. So our work across all of these pieces is critical, but at the end of the day, it's making sure that cotton products are on the shelves so that people can buy it and more cotton is consumed.
Thank you. So then as you keyed on a couple of things, as you look
Yeah.
at the competitive landscape, where do you see the greatest opportunity for cotton to differentiate itself? You mentioned a couple of points, but I'm curious if you could elaborate a little on that.
Yeah, so I think the most compelling of all points is the natural nature of cotton. I think, especially in today's environment, we do see a lot of that from consumers, looking for natural products, but looking for performance. That, people aren't willing to compromise on anything. So, whether it's their home products, whether it's their apparel, that performance really needs to be there. So a big piece of it is making sure that we do communicate that out to them. We also have a tremendous opportunity with microplastics. Again, that's something else that has really shed a different light on synthetics than maybe was the case 10, 20 years ago. So really making sure that we educate the consumer and tell, speak to him or her on the benefits of, why cotton is the natural fiber of choice.
Thank you. So as you really sort of start to sit in this role, you'll be aligning fiber level decision making, retail execution, and consumer engagement, which is a big task, of course. What are some of your early priorities as you sort of, step into this role?
Absolutely. Thank you. I think, it's about listening and learning. Obviously, when you come into a role, you want to make sure that you make an impact quickly, but at the same time, it's really, really important to listen and learn and understand, what you're walking into. I've spent the last 2.5 months, meeting everybody, traveling. I've, been with the team obviously with our teams in New York and in Cary. Also have been out to meet our teams in Mexico and Asia. And really, I think we are very blessed in that we have a tremendously fantastic team. So I think, that's really task one is understanding, meeting the people, understanding what they do, understanding what where we are and where those opportunities are. I think we had somewhat siloed trade versus consumer marketing departments in the past. So it's really looking, how do we bring that together into one entity, at the same time, making sure that we don't lose any of the tremendous pieces that we have in place. as I said, moving quickly is another big piece of it. So it's again, we have an incredible toolkit I've referenced already, so, and I'm barely scratching the surface, but our technologies, the work we do in sustainability, our trend forecasting, the incredible work our team does both on the trade and the consumer marketing side, and then our people assets. We have a phenomenal account team in place globally. It's really making sure that we leverage that toolkit to drive adoptions. And, part of that is about building one really cohesive, strong team.
So one of the things that, excuse me, that you mentioned was the toolkit and what was available. So just to give a little peek behind the curtain,
Yeah.
like what have been some of the surprising things you've learned about CI's work and, research, et cetera, whatever it might be in Curio or across the globe? I'm curious, some of your insights and thoughts, initial
Absolutely.
take from
Yeah, and
that.
I think a lot of it is just the incredible scale of what we do. And I think, a lot of people take that for granted, but it really is unique, especially coming from competitive world. And one that I like to speak about is trend forecasting. That's something that in a lot of cases brands will spend $50,000 to have someone come and speak. That's a resource that we offer up to brands that, are silk cotton adoptees, our fabric libraries. I mean, that's just tremendous how, again, the fact that we have these incredible resources, that we put those out there and that we share that. We have a team that travels around the world sharing those resources. Also on the consumer insights piece, again, one of those things that at past companies we've had to scrap and figure out how do we get a little bit of information. I'm very familiar with our lifestyle monitor because it is one of the few resources that I was able to tap into in the past. So having those types of things and using them to make those connections with the retailers is so important. It almost gives you permission to play in a way that other people don't have. So that's been not surprising. Again, I knew it existed. I think I didn't know quite the extent it existed. And then the other piece, well, really two pieces for me, really just starting to see the scale of the research work we do. And I am definitely not a PhD, but I am blown away by just the tremendous bearing power that we have in our organization, all that we bring to the table there. And then not so much surprised, but just really delighted to meet so many of the producers. That producer tour was my second week, so it felt like it was part of my orientation. It obviously wasn't, but really starting to meet our stakeholders and looking forward to doing a lot more of that as we move forward.
Yeah, like you do have a tremendous amount of producers who would be on the call today, and I'm curious,
Yes.
do you have plans to go out and do some ride-alongs or go out onto the farm, or maybe some things that you heard or learned during the tour
No.
that you would like to share or offer insight on?
Absolutely. So again, I wish I could have been able to do that sooner, but unfortunately, I had to go meet all the teams and figure everything out. I am attending the GCC mid-year event in July, which I'm really excited about. And then obviously we have our farm tours coming up in the fall. Would love to get out to some ride-alongs before then. It's just gonna be schedule dependent, but that's been great. And I think, like I said, the producer tour, having those one-on-one conversations with some of those producers was fantastic. I think my third week, we actually had new board member orientation. So I has got a chance to spend some time with some of our new board member producers. And that was, again, also just really insightful. And, at the end of the day, very cognizant of our mission, and making sure that, we're listening. And I know your team does an amazing job of this, making sure that, we are hearing those producer voices and incorporating that into the work that we do.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Taylor's on the call with Georgia Cotton Commission is on the call today, as a matter
Okay,
of
hi
fact.
there.
Yeah. So I would love to hear just a little bit, sort of personally, a couple of questions for you. So
Yeah.
you have a wonderful accent. Can you tell
Ah,
everyone like where you're from and sort of your
yeah.
journey that got you here?
Yes, so again,
Yeah.
people generally can't place it. I was actually born in Zimbabwe and I grew up in South Africa. So that's where some of the accent comes from. I actually moved to the US for college. I went to college in North Carolina. So there's a teensy bit of Southern accent in there. Lived in Georgia. Actually spent 12 years in New York as well. So I fully understand that. And then I've been back in North Carolina for the past, I'd say 7 years. So bit of a hodgepodge. I sometimes get people guess Australian, but originally South African.
Got it. Great. So college brought you here. I'm curious, what was your major? What was
Oh,
your textiles?
yeah, no, not at all, actually. And
Mhm.
again, I know we have a lot of State and Carolina people on the call, so don't hold me against this, but I actually did go to Duke where I was a history and French major. So
Mhm.
completely
Mhm.
unrelated, but then I did subsequently go to business school, which was, focused a lot more on
Got it.
marketing.
Yeah, and then you found your path in
Yes.
textiles and apparels and found your passion.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, since I was a kid, I was always very, very interested in the fashion apparel industry. And, the more I got into it, the more I was really into the how of how, how do the products get made? That's been something I'm really passionate about.
Got it. Okay. Well, the last question we have for you before we wrap up,
Yeah.
we always like to get to know the person behind the title. It's very sort of relational industry, as you'll get to know, which is a wonderful thing. But when you're not thinking about, fiber strategy or global markets, like what is a perfect day for you? What does life outside of the office look like?
Yeah, so again, when I'm not, if I'm at home over the weekend, my husband and I will go exercise in the morning. I'll play a game of golf, read a really good book. Also really like travel, so again, spend a lot of time traveling as well, obviously for work, but also personally too.
Got it. Great. And for anyone who's a golfer on the call, I'm sure they would love to know what your handicap is.
Well, the husband had frozen shoulder last year, so we didn't play as much golf, but it's I'm probably around a 16 at the moment, so not
Okay.
great.
Got it. No, but hey, I've never played, so mine would be like off the charts from there. So anyway, that were those are questions that we have. So thank you for sharing more about your background, the fresh approach to marketing, really sharpening the focus, modernizing outreach, better support cotton through the supply chain. We look forward to having you back on again in the future. We know that you're working through your 2027 plans right
Yes.
now, so we look
Yep.
forward to hearing a little bit more about that. So we're going to ask you in advance to come back and be with us for that. So
Wonderful.
with that, I will turn things back to Daniel to close us out this morning.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura.
Of course.
Well, thank you, Bev, for taking time to join us this morning. It's been great to get to know a little bit more about your background, and we look forward to working with you moving forward. But before we wrap up today, I want to thank you all for joining us for this morning's Cotton and Coffee. We truly appreciate you taking the time to stay informed and engaged with the work being done with the Cotton Research and Promotion Program. Before we sign off, I want to share a quick look at our next Cotton and Coffee episode. Our next Cotton and Coffee is scheduled for Tuesday, May 19th at 7:30 a.m. Central. We will be hearing from Cotton Incorporated's Director of Brand Partnerships, Andrea Samber. She'll be joining us to share more about the Blue Jeans Go Green program celebrating 20 years of impact, and we hope to see you then. As a reminder, all Cotton and Coffee episodes are recorded and uploaded to the Cotton Board YouTube channel. We encourage you to go back and watch any of our previous Cotton and Coffee episodes and share them with others who may be interested. Thank you all for joining us for this morning's